This is Education Sector Television International, ESTV. And this morning, I am privileged to be with Auntie Bimbo, Oloyede, a veteran television producer, broadcaster. Good morning, ma.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure too. I consider myself to be highly privileged to sit beside you as a role model.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I discovered that you had a trip today to an oncology department.
Yes, I went to I went to an oncology department.
Oncology department.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
went to an oncology department in one of our hospitals.
Okay, what is the trip all about?
Well, I'm approaching my 70th birthday, and when I sat down and reflected about certain things, certain happenings, occurrences in my life, especially in the last 15, 20 years, I realized that quite a lot of my close relatives had actually passed on as a result of having different types of cancer. And thinking about my birthday, I just felt that it was an opportunity to do something, partly in their memory, but also thinking about those patients that are alive now, receiving treatment. And I began to consider what I could do to alleviate some of their discomfort, some of their pain. And so I have gone to a couple of hospitals, specifically the oncology departments, making inquiries, finding out what kind of assistance they may need, what kind of facilities they may still require. And I decided that I was going to raise funds from the public to enable us make some useful contribution, donation to these hospitals. And also looking at the losses, I feel that there should be more gains. So I also want to look into research. So that was my mission this morning.
Okay. So were you able to achieve your good intention?
Yes, I believe so, because I was able to speak with a consultant oncologist. She gave me some good background information. She took me around the hospital so I could have a look at some of the spaces that are utilized by patients. And we talked about the kind of things, the kind of facilities and equipments that are required. So I would say that my mission was successful this morning.
We thank God, ma'am.
Thank you.
You just said your 70th birthday is approaching.
Mhm.
Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
And I would also like you to know, this is my program, One Citizen of Greater Values. You are my very first guest.
Oh, wow. That is a privilege indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So let me quickly ask you, you were in NTA 10 for 40 years, is that right?
No, not quite right.
Okay.
I was actually at NTA for just 5 years.
Okay.
Yes, but I spent 1 year as an assistant producer. I spent 4 years as a news anchor, and then I left.
Okay.
But I came back to anchoring the news about 21, 22 years later, when I was invited by Channels Television to come in and anchor for them on a part-time basis. So I did that for about 13 years, and then I retired. I retired about 6 or 7 years ago, and then continued training their presenters and producers, which is part of what I've been doing generally for about 25 years.
Okay, because my research says you were in broadcasting for 40 years and 4 years on the NTA 9 o'clock news. Okay, could that be correct?
Yes, 4 years on NTA. But I have been associated with broadcasting for, I think, 2 years short of 50 years.
Oh, so my research was quite correct.
Your research was correct, but did not have the details of how I have been involved.
How the journey has been.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So let's come to your journey, ma'am. Your broadcasting journey. How has it been? Let's share your experience. How has it been?
Well, it's been very interesting. It's been challenging, and it has been on and off. On and off in the sense that I've not always been on air, but I have always been involved somehow with TV production and presentation. It is just that there are specific periods of time when you would say I could be pinned down to appearing on this channel or that channel for this particular period of time. But but when I left NTA, my husband and I established a TV production company, radio TV production company,
Okay.
and we did a variety of things, mostly TV commercials, some programs as well. So that's why I say I have been involved, for that number of years, but I have not been specifically on TV um, consistently for 40 years, as you said.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you, ma'am. So along the line, can you share any experience you consider as a sweet memory or otherwise?
Hmm. I think one surprising element or surprising occurrence, because at the time I was still a very young broadcaster, and this goes back to 1977. We had Nigeria hosted Festac 77.
Okay.
And at that time, all the major TV stations around the country, there weren't that many then, but all the TV stations around the country came together under the auspices of the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria. So Bon gathered producers and presenters in Lagos because Lagos was the major location for Festac 77.
Yes.
And I was surprised when I was selected to open the broadcast. The broadcast was going out to the world.
Hmm.
And we had established a station. Well, do I call it yes? Not a station, but we established a broadcast hub, let me put it like that, at the National Theatre
Okay.
at the time. The theatre itself was just about a year old, and there was a part of the theatre, actually the bowels of the theatre, I would say, let me say the bowels of the theatre, in the main bowl of the theatre, we had a studio set up there because we were broadcasting every day. From there, we had news bulletins, we had personality interviews, and we did this for the duration of Festac 77. So I was selected to open the first broadcast,
Okay.
and that was quite a highlight for me because I mean that I had never done anything like that. I'd never been exposed in that way. So I was proud of that selection, and I was really happy that I was given that opportunity.
Okay.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Any form of regrets?
Oh no, for that time, no. For any other time, I don't think so. Perhaps if I think back to the period of time when I took the decision to leave the NTA, I would say my regret was the fact that we were under military rule at the time, and I wasn't terribly excited about the content of some of our news bulletins. You know, it seemed as if it was a very watered down kind of presentation, and I don't know, I wasn't convinced, and I believed that I was also not convincing as a news anchor. So that was why I left at that time.
Then, as a professional, was there any way you could influence what you don't like to see in this bulletin?
No, no.
It has to go the way they want it.
Yes, because I mean the scripts are written, the editor decides, edits the scripts, the reports are done, the visuals are, so you read what has been written for you.
Censored.
Well, you could put it that way.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, I want to find out, during the line of your career, did you ever thought about acquiring any other skills as a woman?
Um, Yes, I found that I had to, because during the course of my activities, I established an NGO.
Okay.
I established that NGO in 1999, and once I got involved, I discovered that it was a completely different world. A different world in the sense that the approach to activities was very different from what I had known before. And to a large extent, when you're in that world, if you like, you depend a lot on getting grants. So there's a way that grants have to be written, and you have to learn how to write the grants. You have to understand how to approach grant writing, and there are some skills that you also have to learn, because in the course of carrying out your activities, there are certain types of approaches that need to be embraced. So you have to learn how to be an advocate. You have to learn how to write grants. You have to learn how to think logically, because in the grant world, it is logical thinking that is understood. You can't say because you're passionate about something and then you become sentimental. Sentiment does not bring you the money. It is logic that brings you the money, being able to think through from the beginning to the end exactly how you're going to carry out this activity. Because it's people that you don't know, strangers that will read your proposals. And if they don't follow certain precepts and they don't follow expectations, then that money is not coming to you and your activity will not get done.
Were you able to get this done?
Yes, I was.
Did you succeed?
I did. I
Wow.
eventually I was able to get grants from then it was called UNIFEM. Now it's known as UN Women. I got grants from UNFPA, from UNIC, from the British Council, from USAID. Yes, so I learned how to do it, and I was able to get grants to do those projects that I wanted to do. And mind you, because of my media background, what I did was to approach most of my activities from the point of view of being in the media. So I did things for radio, I did things for TV, I did some workshops, as well, seminars and things like that. But I was able to get support for some of the media activities that I created.
And moreover, I want to believe too that your name is also a brand.
Well, it helped.
It helped.
It helped. Yes, I must confess, it helped. Yes, because during that time, I was still anchoring the news.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they believe in the genuinity and the honesty of the name behind the request.
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now let's come to the Nigerian education sector, of which you are familiar with, because I want to believe you are also a powerful stakeholder. A stakeholder in the sense that it is either you're in school, or your daughter, your son, or even your grandchild is in school. So we are all stakeholders in the education sector.
Whether we like it or not.
We are stakeholders.
Yes.
Oh, what development would you like to see advising the current government? The development you would like to see in the education sector? Just give me three.
Ooh. I think the first piece of advice would be to have a very, very good look at the curriculum. Okay. I remember attending a conference about 3 or 4 years ago, and the then Commissioner of Education made a statement that I have not forgotten. She said that whatever we are teaching the children now needs to be something that by the time they leave is still relevant. So for me, one of the very important things that needs to be done is to study the curriculum and refashion it. Because the way that the world operates now is totally different from the way that we operated even 5 years ago. And when you consider that a 5-year-old child now perhaps would be, let's look at 10, 12 years hence before they get into the university, what precisely would be the method of teaching 10, 12 years from now that would enable the 5-year-old now to still be able to work within the perimeters of education, of teaching, of curriculum. So if we are not thinking about the future, if we're not thinking about how this child will be able to uh, benefit from future types of teaching, types of subjects, ways of thinking, then we're actually wasting our time right now. So it's very important, I think, that the curriculum should be looked into. Then I think the next thing that we have to consider would probably be the mindset of teachers. Now, our reality is very, very different. Our present reality is very different from what it was even 10 years ago. So what teachers have to grapple with now is not what they had to grapple with 10 years ago. As a result, I think it is necessary for those who are in the know to look at I'm coming back to curriculum again, to look at the curriculum that is offered at teachers training colleges.
Do we still have them? Teachers training colleges?
Oh yes, we do.
Not colleges of education?
Well, okay, so that is my own way. You're right. That's my own term. Colleges of education, that is the correct way to describe them. But I still see them as teacher training colleges because that is where the teachers are trained. All right. So I think that there are aspects of life that have crept up on us that may not be part of the curriculum in our colleges of education. I can't tell you precisely what the curriculum is now, but what I can say is that there are things that have happened to our children that have affected them in one way or another, and sometimes adversely, that teachers will, whether they like it or not, will have to contend with. They will contend with, I think that is the right word.
Adoption of technology?
Technology is one of them. The fact that the children of today are not like they used to be. Children of today, to a large extent, are unable to go through regular childhoods. So what you find is, you find small adults who have missed out on aspects of their childhood. You find small adults who have not been able to connect with their parents.
How do you mean? Missing out on childhood, small adults, migrating from baby to childhood?
You see, when my children were growing up, and my children are, definitely adults by any stretch of the imagination. They have their own children, okay?
Yes.
So when my children were growing up, we lived in an estate where there were green areas. There were parks. There were places where children could go and play as children. They could go and play football. They could, run up and down on slides and things like that. Nowadays, unless you go to designated theme parks, you don't have that. even in lots of schools, they don't, sports is not something that is compulsory. How does a child grow up, as a complete person if they are not exposed to some of the sports that we was exposed to? That is where character, to a large extent, that is where character is built. You learn about being competitive, quite all right, but you also learn about things like sportsmanship. You learn about things like give and take. You learn about teamwork. All of this is done on the field. When you're playing basketball, when you're playing football, when you're playing netball, when you're playing tennis, things like that. But how many schools, both public and private, have space to embrace those kind of activities? So for me, that is one big way in which children are losing out. So what happens to fill that space? You are either watching TV, or you're on your device, or you are doing homework, which is not bad, but then you're also cramming so many different subjects. And there's very little time for leisure. There's very little time for thinking. There's very little time for even having general discussions with your parents, because even your parents don't have time for you. So as a result, you will find that that childhood, those childhood experiences, those experiments, exploration, they don't happen.
They are missing out.
They're missing out. So they are learning from their peers who don't know any better, or they're learning from the internet that is completely
Uncensored?
uncensored, yes, devoid of any type of filter.
Free for all.
Free for all, exactly. So if they are not closely monitored, you have no idea what your children are watching and learning and misunderstanding and experimenting as a result.
I now understand.
Yes. So teachers are faced with that. So you're not just looking at a child in a classroom who is generally curious. You're looking at a child who is who has missed out on a lot of things, who has watched a lot of things that they're not supposed to watch, whose mind wanders because they can't really concentrate on what they're supposed to be learning in the classroom. And this teacher has goals to achieve. How do you get through to children like that? So that is why I say, when you are looking at teachers in colleges of education, I think there are certain types of courses that they should be taking to prepare them for a situation where all hell has broken loose.
Okay. The third one.
All right. So I think we have, to a large extent, I think we have an identity crisis in the nation. We don't really know who we are. We have not been taught where we're coming from. We have, although I understand history is back in the curriculum, but there was a period of time when history was not there, had been dropped. So how do you know where you're going to if you don't know where you're coming from? So I think it's very important for us to have a clear picture of our history, our culture. And I think it's important for that culture to also be infused into our everyday learning within the education system. We know that in the past you had parents and grandparents telling you tales by moonlight, and we know that doesn't happen again. Basically, it doesn't happen again. But what children gained from those tales by moonlight, they gained values. They learned about principles. They learned about the right way to do something and the wrong way to do something. a lot of that is somehow ensconced in our parables, in our stories, in our folk tales. So if we're not hearing those things, and our parents are not, they don't have the time to teach us, and to a large extent, some of these parables are also embedded in our native languages. And you do have a situation, and I'm guilty in this, you have a situation where parents don't, in many instances, especially in the city centers, in the urban areas, parents don't talk to their children in their native languages. So they talk to themselves, to each other, but you don't often hear them conversing with their children in their native languages. Subsequently, what the children speak would be English, would be pidgin English. And as much as I am a proponent of speaking English well, I do think that it is important for our children to also be able to speak at least one of our native languages.
Okay. Beautiful, man. Thank you very much. Now, let me take you back to the position of our teachers at various levels of education.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to talk about the primary school teacher who is in charge of building the foundation of that child to migrate to secondary and later to tertiary. I want you to give a powerful message to that teacher in the primary school, laying the foundation for that child's education. What do you have to tell them?
I think that a primary school teacher has a huge responsibility. And the idea that a primary school teacher has taken on that job because there's no other job to do is a misnomer. It is a no, no, no. I understand that we must do something, we must earn something, but the responsibility that the primary school teacher has goes way, way, way beyond the idea that I'm doing this because 30 days makes one salary or one payday. Those children are depending on you. Their parents are also depending on you. And if you know that you want to do the right thing, then you ought to ensure that you are giving your best to these children, such that when they leave primary school and move to junior secondary, you're satisfied and you are proud of what it is that you have offered them. You are proud of what they have learnt, of how they can give a good account of themselves. Which means that as a primary school teacher, in fact, as any teacher, you have to be constantly learning. You can't say, well, I have got this certificate, or I have got that degree, or I have done this training, then it is enough. It can't be.
It has to be continuous education.
It has to be continuous education. And especially because the child that is in primary 1 today will learn certain things. By the time perhaps they're getting to primary 3 or 4, some of those things that they have learned have actually become, if not obsolete, at least old-fashioned. So it is the duty of the teacher to keep abreast of trends, of knowledge, of approaches, and to always have technology as a tool that is at their fingertips. That's what I would say to primary school teachers.
Thank you, ma'am. And to our youths, we have so many of them moving around the streets, even as graduates. What do you have to tell them?
I think the first thing is keep hope alive. I know that it might sound very It might sound patronizing, it might sound, it might even sound ridiculous to them. But without hope, you're not going anywhere, you're not doing anything. I would also say that they should be vigilant. Vigilant about opportunities, because opportunities come, suddenly. And if you are half asleep, if you are just sitting at home moping, then you will lose those opportunities. Um, I would also say that they should try to keep learning themselves, because the fact that you have a school leaving certificate, or you have WAEC, or you have GCE, or even that you have A levels and you are waiting and hoping to go into a university, the fact that you have that certification does really not mean that that knowledge has overtaken the knowledge that you have. Because if you're waiting for 2 years, in fact, a lot of things can happen in 1 month, not to talk of 2 years. So you have to, you owe it to yourself to keep abreast of the subjects that you are interested in, so that by the time you are able to get into the university, or by the time let's say you finish university, you finish youth corps, you're waiting for a job. By the time you are able to get into that job, then you have brushed up on your skills. Nowadays, I would also say to young people, if you think that you can survive on one stream of income, you are making a very big mistake. That will not happen. So wherever you have the opportunity to learn another skill, a skill that maybe you can use your hands, a skill that can help you to that can help you to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. Pick up a skill, because you can never lose by having an extra skill, and you can never lose by earning extra income. I remember some of my friends, for instance, told me years ago how they saw themselves through university by being barbers. They learned how to cut hair. So you have people who can weave hair, you have people who can bake, people who can sew. I mean, all these are ways of earning extra income. So that you're a student and you are waiting, or that you're a graduate and you are waiting to get into a 9 to 5 job, don't waste your time. Yeah. Learn a skill.
Thank you, ma'am. I feel happy that you emphasize on learning the skills, picking the skill, be creative.
Yes.
Do something extra.
Exactly.
To earn an extra income.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Now let's talk to our parents. What do you have to tell them?
Our parents need to be more proactive. They need to be more patient, and they need to create time for their children. I have discovered, looking back, I've discovered some of the mistakes that I made when I was a parent. No, I'm still a parent, but when my children were growing up, yes, I've discovered some mistakes that I made. And I think it's important to keep a line of communication going with your children all the time.
All the time.
All the time. In as much as you are the parent and you are in the position of authority, you must also be the friend. You must be the friend, you must be the advisor, you must be the counselor. You have to be all those things. Because whatever you don't tell your children, they're going to go and look for that information someplace else. And you have no guarantee that the information that they will be given by other people, you have no guarantee that it will be correct. You have no guarantee that it will be in their favor. You don't know who may wish to exploit them. as a result of their not knowing certain things. So parents have to try. It is hard, but they have to try.
Yeah, at this beautiful junction, I would like to say a very big thank you to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I feel honored and fulfilled to have this interview session with you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you.